Arrival on Earth. The night was dark and the sky was clear. Stars shined brightly, but something unusual moved among them. A small spaceship, silver and sleek, entered Earth's atmosphere, glowing hot as it descended. Inside the ship, two alien women, Zira and Vela, held onto their seats. Zira, the older one, had deep blue skin and glowing silver eyes. She was calm but focused on the controls. Vela, younger and full of curiosity, had pale violet skin and bright golden eyes. She looked at the screen, watching their descent. "We are coming in too fast," Zira said, gripping the controls tightly. Vela giggled. "Fast is fun." Zira rolled her eyes. "Fast is dangerous." "Hold on." The spaceship trembled as it entered Earth's lower sky. They had been traveling for days, escaping their enemies in deep space. Earth was their best hiding spot, a small, unnoticed planet with no intergalactic wars. But now, as they fell closer, the ship's alarms blared. "Landing system is damaged," Zira muttered. Vela frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means we crash." The spaceship spun wildly, heading toward the surface. Trees rushed up to meet them. With a loud boom, the ship crashed into a dense forest, sliding through the mud and breaking small trees before finally stopping near a quiet human neighborhood. Smoke rose from the damaged engines. Inside, Zira groaned. "I hate crashing." Vela sat up, rubbing her head. "But we survived. And look." She pointed at the ship's screen, showing images of the land outside. "We are near human homes." Zira sighed. "We need to stay hidden." "But I want to explore." Vela grinned. Before Zira could stop her, Vela pressed the door release. With a soft hiss, the ship's hatch opened, letting the cool Earth air rush in. Vela stepped outside, her bare feet sinking into the wet grass. She gasped. "The air is warm, and the ground is soft." "Zira, come." Zira hesitated but followed. The forest smelled fresh, different from the metallic scent of their spaceship. In the distance, lights from human houses glowed softly. It was late at night, and everything was quiet. "We should not be here," Zira warned. "Humans might see us." "But isn't that the point?" Vela whispered. "We came to Earth. Let's see what it is like." Zira sighed. She knew Vela would not listen. "Fine. But only for a short time." Vela grinned and started walking toward the houses. She moved carefully, hiding in the shadows. Zira followed, scanning the area with her sharp eyes. They passed a small road and reached the backyard of a large house. It was a human home, simple but interesting. A wooden fence surrounded the yard. There was a table, some chairs, and a small pool of water. Vela pointed at the pool. "What is that?" Zira checked her wrist device. "It is a swimming pool. Humans use it for fun." Vela's eyes sparkled. "Fun. Can we try?" Zira shook her head. "No. We should stay quiet." Just then, they heard a sound. A soft rushing noise. It was coming from inside the house. It was strange, like wind but different. Vela moved closer, looking through a small window. Her golden eyes widened. "Zira, look at this." Zira peeked inside. What she saw made her curious too. A human bathroom. White walls, shining tiles. And inside, water was falling from a metal pipe. Steam filled the room, and warm droplets hit the surface, creating small waves. The sound was soft and calming. "What is that?" Vela whispered. Zira checked her device again. "It is called a shower. Humans use it to clean themselves." Vela's face lit up with excitement. Water, falling from the wall. This planet is amazing. Before Zira could stop her, Vela reached for the door handle. It was unlocked. With a click, the door opened slightly. Warm air rushed out, and the scent of fresh soap filled their noses. Vela grinned. "Let's go inside." Zira hesitated. "This is dangerous." "But it is also exciting," Vela whispered. Zira sighed. Only for a moment. With careful steps, the two aliens entered the house, moving toward the mysterious sound of water. They had no idea that their first human encounter was just minutes away. First encounter with a human shower. The warmth of the bathroom wrapped around Zyra and Vela like a soft blanket. Their home planet was cold and dry, so this humid air felt strange against their skin. They stepped cautiously inside, their bare feet pressing against the cool, smooth tiles. Vela was the first to move closer to the source of the sound. The shower. Her golden eyes sparkled as she watched the water stream down from the metal pipe. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before. Back on their planet, water existed only in frozen form, and liquid water was a rare luxury, used only for survival. Zyra stood behind her, more cautious. This could be dangerous, she warned. Vela ignored her. She reached out a hand and let a few droplets fall onto her palm. Her eyes widened. It's warm. She turned her palm upward, letting the water hit her skin fully. The warmth spread through her fingers, making her shiver. Then, with a sudden burst of excitement, she stepped forward, putting her entire arm under the flowing water. Vela, Zyra hissed. What are you doing? Vela laughed. It feels amazing. She turned to Zyra, lifting her wet hand in the air. You have to try this. Zyra frowned but was curious. She took a slow step forward and raised one finger, letting a single drop of water fall onto her skin. It ran down her finger in a strange, tickling sensation. She blinked. It's pleasant. Vela grinned. See, I told you. She stepped fully under the water, gasping as the warmth hit her skin. The sensation was overwhelming, a mix of comfort and thrill. Water ran down her arms, her shoulders, her back. It soaked into her thin clothing, making it cling to her body. Zyra watched, unsure. She had spent her entire life in controlled environments, spaceships, training centers, military bases. She had never done something so reckless, so childish. But as she watched Vela close her eyes and sigh in bliss, she felt something stir inside her. Maybe, just this once. She stepped forward, slowly, carefully, until she was standing next to Vela. The water hit her shoulder first, sending a small shiver through her body. Then it traveled down, soaking her from head to toe. She gasped. It was like being wrapped in the softest embrace. The warmth seeped into her muscles, relaxing them instantly. It was unlike anything she had ever felt before. Vela laughed. I told you. Isn't this the best thing ever? Zyra closed her eyes for a moment, letting the water run over her face. It's incredible. They stood there for several minutes, enjoying the sensation, completely unaware of time. Vela began experimenting, turning around, lifting her arms, letting the water hit different parts of her body. Zyra, always the logical one, examined the shower structure. She touched the metal pipe, the small knobs, and the glass barrier around them. This technology is simple, she observed, but so effective. Vela giggled. Who cares about technology? Just enjoy it. She spun in a small circle, splashing water everywhere. The sound of water hitting the tiles echoed in the small space. The steam made the air thick and comforting. Then, something unexpected happened. Vela turned one of the knobs without thinking. The water suddenly turned cold. She screamed, jumping backward. Ah, it changed. It changed. Zyra stepped back as well, her body tensing at the sudden temperature shift. What did you do? I don't know. It attacked me. Vela yelped. She grabbed the knob and turned it again, but this time, the water became boiling hot. Ah, she cried, scrambling to the side. Zyra, acting fast, grabbed the knob and twisted it in the opposite direction, restoring the warm, pleasant temperature. She exhaled. That was unexpected. Vela was breathing hard. This shower is dangerous. Zyra chuckled. No, you just don't know how to use it. Vela pouted. Fine. But that was not fun. They both stood there, dripping, their clothes sticking to them. They were about to relax again when suddenly, a noise, a thump from outside the bathroom. Both aliens froze. Footsteps. Slow, careful, moving toward them. Someone was in the house. Zara and Vela exchanged wide-eyed looks. They had been so lost in their discovery that they had forgotten one important thing. This was not their home. Zara moved quickly, turning off the water. The sudden silence in the bathroom made the approaching footsteps even louder. Vela whispered, "What do we do?" Zara's mind raced. "We hide." Vela looked around. "Where?" Zara grabbed her hand. "Just move." They stumbled out of the shower, their wet feet leaving trails on the floor. Vela tried to wipe them away, but Zara pulled her toward the door. The footsteps stopped. Right outside, a voice spoke. "Who's in there?" It was deep, strong, and filled with suspicion. Zara's heart pounded. The human had found them. Vela whispered, "We are doomed." The doorknob turned. The door began to open. Zara tensed, ready to fight. Vela held her breath. And then, the human stepped inside. A tall man, broad shoulders, damp hair, a towel wrapped around his waist. His face was serious, his brown eyes sharp. He stared at the two strange women standing in his bathroom, soaked, glowing faintly under the dim light. For a long second, nobody moved. Then the man blinked and said the only thing that came to his mind. "What the hell?" The pleasure of water. For a moment, everything was silent. The man stood frozen in the doorway, his damp hair dripping onto his shoulders. The towel around his waist barely hung on as he stared at the two soaked alien women standing in his shower. Zara and Vela were equally still, water dripping from their glowing skin, their strange alien features reflecting under the soft bathroom light. Then, all at once, "Who the hell are you?" The man shouted, gripping the edge of his towel, as if it were his last line of defense. Vela let out a small, high-pitched scream and immediately grabbed Zara's arm, hiding behind her. Zara, always the warrior, took a defensive stance, ready to fight. The man took a step forward, but his foot landed on the wet floor. He slipped. For a brief second, he flailed in the air like a fish trying to swim on land. Then, crash. He landed hard on his back, groaning as the air was knocked out of his lungs. The towel barely stayed in place. Vela peered over Zara's shoulder. "Is he dead?" Zara sighed. "Humans are weak." "I heard it." The man grumbled from the floor. Vela tilted her head. "Oh, you're alive." Slowly, the man sat up, rubbing the back of his head. His brown eyes darted between the two aliens. His mind raced to make sense of what was happening. Two women. No, not women. Their skin had a faint glow, their eyes were too bright, and their ears had a sharp, elegant curve. They looked human, but they were not. He took a deep breath. "Okay, either I drank too much, or I have aliens in my bathroom." Vela beamed. "You're smart. We are aliens." Zara groaned. "Vela, stop talking." Vela pouted. "Why?" "He already saw us. The secret is out." The man slowly got to his feet. He adjusted his towel and crossed his arms. "All right. Let's start simple. Who are you?" Zara hesitated. Sharing information was risky, but they had no choice now. "My name is Zara," she said carefully. "This is Vela." Vela waved. "Hi, human." The man exhaled. "Right. And what the hell are you doing in my shower?" At this, Vela suddenly lit up with excitement. "Oh, we were exploring your world, and then we heard this amazing sound, so we came in, and we saw the water falling from the wall, and we touched it, and it was warm, and it felt so good, and we just had to get inside, and then—" Okay, stop," the man interrupted, rubbing his temples. Zara gave Vela a tired look. You talk too much. Vela huffed. I was explaining. The man took another deep breath. His patience was being tested. So let me get this straight, he said. You two just walked into my house because you were curious about my shower. Vela nodded enthusiastically. Zira sighed. Yes, that is correct. The man stared at them. He wanted to be mad. He should be mad. Two strangers, aliens, no less, had broken into his house and used his shower. But instead, all he could think about was how bizarre the situation was. Two extraterrestrials were standing in front of him, dripping wet, looking at him as if he were the weird one. His brain finally caught up. Oh my God, he muttered. You're serious? Yes, Vela said cheerfully. Your water device is the best thing ever. The man pinched the bridge of his nose. It's a shower. Vela's eyes sparkled. A shower, she repeated in awe. Zira crossed her arms. Your world has a very simple name for things. The man let out a short laugh, shaking his head. Okay, great, you love my shower. Fantastic. But that doesn't explain why you're still here. Vela opened her mouth to answer, but Zira grabbed her arm and pulled her back. We'll leave now, Zira said firmly. The man raised an eyebrow. Aha. And how exactly did you get in? Vela pointed at the slightly open door. It wasn't locked. The man blinked. You just walked in. Yes, Zira said simply. He groaned. I knew I should have fixed that lock. Vela, however, wasn't done being amazed by the human world. Her eyes drifted to the counter, where bottles of shampoo and body wash sat neatly in a row. She grabbed one and turned it in her hands. What is this? She asked. The man sighed. That's shampoo. Vela opened the cap and sniffed. Her golden eyes went wide. It smells wonderful. Zira grabbed a different bottle and frowned. This one says body wash. Why are they separate? The man was too exhausted to argue. Because one is for hair and one is for skin. Vela tilted her head. Your species is so complicated. You broke into my house, and I'm the complicated one. The man asked, exasperated. Vela ignored him and squeezed the bottle. A thick, foamy liquid oozed onto her fingers. She gasped. It's soft. Zira narrowed her eyes at her own bottle. Strange. She squeezed it as well. The body wash squirted out and hit the man directly in the chest. For a moment, everyone went completely still. The man looked down at the blob of soap on his skin. His eyebrow twitched. Vela burst out laughing. Zira, you attacked him. Zira's lips twitched slightly. It was an accident. The man wiped off the soap with an annoyed sigh. You two are impossible. Vela grinned. But you like us, right? The man groaned. He had no idea how, but somehow these two aliens had completely ruined his quiet night. Yet, at the same time, there was something oddly hilarious about the whole situation. With a tired sigh, he ran a hand through his damp hair. What the hell am I supposed to do with you two? Zira shrugged. That is your problem, human. Vela beamed. Can we use your shower again? The man stared at her in disbelief. He had a feeling this was just the beginning. The human returns. The man, who had yet to introduce himself, stood in his bathroom, staring at the two soaked alien women with an expression that was a mixture of exhaustion, confusion, and mild regret for ever waking up that morning. Vela, still fascinated by human bath products, was now sniffing a bar of soap. This one is solid, but it also smells good. Zira, on the other hand, remained alert, her glowing silver eyes fixed on the human. She didn't trust him yet, and she certainly didn't appreciate being caught off guard. The man finally exhaled and muttered, Okay, I need to sit down. He turned and walked out of the bathroom, dripping water onto the floor. Zira and Vela looked at each other before following him, their curiosity far greater than their sense of boundaries. The house was simple but cozy. A small living room with a couch, a low table covered in magazines, and a flickering screen displaying a paused TV show. There were soft yellow lights hanging from the ceiling, filling the space with a warm glow. The man plopped onto the couch and rubbed his face. "This is insane," he muttered. Vela sat cross-legged on the floor in front of him. "Why? We're just visitors." "Visitors don't break into people's homes," the man groaned. Zira remained standing, her arms crossed. "We didn't break anything." The man shot her a dry look. "That's not the point." Vela leaned forward, resting her chin on her hands. "Then what is the point?" The man sighed. "The point is, I was supposed to have a quiet night, take a hot shower, and go to bed. Instead, I come out of my room to find two glowing aliens splashing around in my bathroom like kids at a water park." Vela grinned. "Your shower is amazing, by the way." Zira nodded. "It is highly efficient." The man pinched the bridge of his nose. "Great. I'm glad you like it. But that still doesn't explain who you are, why you're here, and what the hell I'm supposed to do now." Vela sat up excitedly. "Oh, we're from the Zillara system. Our ship crashed near here. We were looking for shelter, and then we found your house, and then we found your shower, and then—" Zira put a hand over Vela's mouth. "Enough." Vela pouted but stayed quiet. The man stared at them. "Wait, your ship crashed." Zira nodded. "In the forest." Another nod. The man groaned. "Oh, great. That's fantastic. The government's gonna love that." Zira raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" The man threw his hands up. "You can't just crash on Earth without someone noticing. There are satellites, cameras, and people who are trained to track this kind of stuff. If anyone saw your ship, they're already looking for you." Vela gasped. "You mean we're being hunted?" Zira frowned. "It is possible, but our ship's cloaking system should have hidden us from their primitive technology." The man snorted. "Primitive? Lady, we've sent people to space. We've got rovers on Mars. We invented the internet." Zira looked unimpressed. "And yet, you have never traveled beyond your own solar system." The man opened his mouth, then closed it. "Okay, fair point." Vela poked his knee. "What's your name, human?" He blinked. "Oh, right. I'm Jake." Vela clapped her hands. "Jake. I like that. It's short and simple. Like shower." Jake groaned. "Please stop comparing my name to plumbing." Zira, still thinking about their situation, turned to him. "You said people might be looking for us. What do we do?" Jake ran a hand through his damp hair. "Well, for starters, you can't stay here. If someone finds out I'm hiding two aliens in my house, I'm pretty sure the government's gonna kick my door down and drag me away for questioning." Vela's eyes widened. "Do humans do that?" Jake frowned. "I don't know. We've never actually had real aliens show up before." Zira studied him carefully. "Then why not turn us in?" Jake froze. It was a good question. The logical thing to do would be to report them. Call someone, let the authorities handle it. But for some reason, he couldn't bring himself to do it. Maybe it was because they didn't feel like a threat. Zira was cautious and serious, but she wasn't aggressive. And Vela? Well, Vela was like an overexcited puppy discovering the world for the first time. Jake sighed. "I don't know. I guess I don't want to see what happens to you if the wrong people find out." Vela smiled. "You're nice, Jake." He rolled his eyes. Yeah, whatever." Zira tilted her head. "Then what do you suggest?" Jake thought for a moment. "First, we need to dry you off. You're soaking wet." Vela looked down at herself. "Oh, that's true." Jake stood up, walked to a closet, and grabbed 2 towels. He tossed one to each of them. "Here, dry off. Then we'll figure out our next move." Vela eagerly wrapped the towel around herself, rubbing her skin with delight. "It's so soft." Zira, however, simply held the towel and stared at it suspiciously. What is its purpose? Jake stared at her. It's a towel. You use it to dry off. Zira squinted. How? Jake blinked. You rub it on your skin. Zira narrowed her eyes at him as if he had just spoken an alien language. Jake sighed, running a hand down his face. Oh my God, you figured out a shower, but not how to use a towel. Vela giggled as she wrapped her towel around her head. Maybe she likes being wet. Zira shot her a glare. I do not. Jake shook his head. You two are gonna be the death of me. Vela grinned. But you like us. Jake groaned. I don't like you. Vela nudged him. You kind of like us. Jake sighed heavily. I hate my life. Zira finally began drying herself off, her movements slow and careful as she figured it out. Meanwhile, Vela wrapped herself in the towel like a cocoon and flopped onto the couch. Jake watched them and rubbed his temples. He had a feeling this night was far from over. Panic and first contact. Jake sat on the couch, rubbing his temples as he processed the insanity of the last hour. 2 alien women had crash-landed on Earth, walked into his house uninvited, and proceeded to take a shower as if it was the most normal thing in the world. Zira and Vela, now mostly dry, sat across from him, wrapped in towels. Vela had curled up on the couch, her golden eyes scanning the room with curiosity, while Zira remained stiff and watchful, always on high alert. Jake exhaled. All right, let's go over this again. Zira folded her arms. Must we? Jake shot her a look. Yes, because I'm still trying to figure out how my quiet night turned into a sci-fi episode. Vela raised her hand eagerly. Woo, I can explain. Jake sighed. Please, go ahead. Vela sat up straight. So, Zira and I were on a mission in deep space. But boom, we were attacked by bounty hunters. We escaped, but our ship got damaged. So whoosh, we came to Earth because it seemed safe. But bam, our ship crashed into the forest. And then, Zira cut her off. We needed a place to hide. Jake blinked. Bounty hunters. Zira nodded. Yes, dangerous ones. Jake exhaled. Great, so not only do I have 2 aliens in my house, but there might be intergalactic mercenaries looking for you. Vela beamed. Pretty exciting, huh? Jake groaned and buried his face in his hands. I hate this. Zira narrowed her eyes. You seem very unhappy. Gee, I wonder why, Jake muttered. Vela patted his knee. Don't worry, Jake. We are highly trained warriors. We won't let anyone hurt you. Jake gave her a deadpan look. You got scared of a cold shower. Vela pouted. That was different. Before Jake could argue, a sudden thudding noise echoed from outside. His head snapped toward the window. What was that? Zira was already standing. Someone is outside. Jake's heart pounded. He quickly got up and moved to the window, peeking through the blinds. His stomach dropped. Dark figures moved between the trees, their outlines barely visible in the dim streetlights. They weren't moving like casual pedestrians. They were slow, careful, searching. Jake turned back to Zira. You said your ship was cloaked, right? Zira nodded, but her expression was tense. Yes, but cloaking doesn't hide impact damage. If someone found the crash site, they may have followed our tracks. Jake clenched his fists. And now they're here. Vela stood up, suddenly serious. What do we do? Zira was already scanning the room. We need to leave. Jake held up a hand. Hold on, hold on. We can't just run out there. They might not even know you're here. Maybe they're just searching the area. Zira frowned. You would rather wait until they knock on your door. Jake swallowed. He knew she had a point. If they had tracked Zira and Vela to this house, it wouldn't be long before they came knocking. Or worse, broke in. His mind raced. If they ran now, they might get caught in the open. If they stayed, they risked being trapped. Then an idea struck him. He turned to Zira. How strong are you? Zira raised an eyebrow. Stronger than you. Jake rolled his eyes. Yeah, thanks. I meant, could you carry me and Vela? Vela gasped. Ooh, a daring escape plan. Zira's eyes narrowed. Possibly. Jake nodded toward the back of the house. There's a fire escape on my balcony. If we go out the back, we might be able to climb onto the roof and use the alley to escape. Zira considered it. A risk, but a calculated one. Vela clapped her hands. I love risks. Let's do it. Jake exhaled. All right, let's move. They crept toward the back of the house, moving as quietly as possible. Jake slid open the balcony door, wincing at the slight creak of the hinges. The cool night air brushed against his skin as he stepped outside. Zira glanced down at the alleyway. A long drop. Jake gritted his teeth. Yeah, but if we can make it to the next rooftop, we'll be out of sight. Vela bounced on her toes. Zira, throw me first. Zira gave her a blank stare. You want me to throw you? Vela grinned. Yes, I love flying. Jake groaned. This is not a game. Zira ignored him, grabbed Vela by the waist, and with barely any effort, launched her across the alley. Vela squealed in delight as she flipped through the air, landing gracefully on the next rooftop. She spun around with a dramatic bow. Tada! Jake's jaw dropped. What the hell? Zira ignored him. Your turn. Before Jake could protest, she grabbed him by the waist. Wait, W-A-I-T. T-H-W-U-M-P. Zira tossed him like a sack of potatoes. Jake screamed as he flew through the air. He flailed, wind rushing past his face, until suddenly he crashed onto the rooftop, rolling to a stop next to Vela. His entire body groaned in protest. I hate you both. Vela giggled. That was fun. A second later, Zira leaped across, landing smoothly. She barely made a sound as she touched down beside them. Jake struggled to his feet, still wheezing. Couldn't you have just helped me climb? Zira tilted her head. This was faster. Jake glared at her but said nothing. From below, the shadowy figures entered the backyard, moving cautiously. One of them held a scanner-like device, sweeping it over the ground. Jake held his breath. One of the figures muttered something into a communicator. The words were muffled, but Jake caught enough to understand. Tracking system confirms movement, but no heat signatures inside. They're gone. Jake turned to Zira and Vela. We need to get out of here. Now. Zira nodded. Agreed. Vela bounced excitedly. Where to next? Jake exhaled. Somewhere far away from here. Zira's gaze hardened. Then let's move. And just like that, the chase had begun. The truth is revealed. The city was alive with neon lights and the distant hum of cars. From their rooftop perch, Jake, Zira, and Vela could see the streets stretching far ahead, a maze of alleys, highways, and looming skyscrapers. The distant glow of billboards flashed advertisements in bright colors, but none of that mattered now. Behind them, dark figures continued to search Jake's home, their scanners sweeping the area. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Those people weren't ordinary cops. They moved too precisely, too efficiently. They weren't here to ask questions. Jake turned to the two aliens beside him. We have to keep moving. If they're tracking you, they won't stop until they find you. Zira's silver eyes glowed faintly in the dark. I know. She looked down at the figures below, studying them. They are not human military. Jake frowned. Then who are they? Zira's lips pressed into a thin line. Hunters. Vela huffed. Ugh. Bounty hunters again. Jake's heart skipped a beat. Again. Zira didn't answer at first. Instead, she scanned the horizon, choosing their next path. Come. We need to keep moving. She grabbed Jake by the arm and easily lifted him off the ground before leaping to the next rooftop. Jake screamed. Again. He landed with a hard thud, rolling across the rooftop. He groaned as he pushed himself up, his entire body aching. Okay, seriously, warn me next time. Vela flipped onto the rooftop effortlessly. That's what I said. Jake shot her a look. You asked to be thrown. Vela shrugged. True. Zira ignored them, already calculating their escape. We need a place to regroup, a secure location. Jake exhaled. I might know a place. He led them across more rooftops, sticking to the shadows, avoiding the eyes of anyone below. Eventually, they reached an old, abandoned building at the edge of the city, a forgotten warehouse with shattered windows and rusted walls. Jake slipped inside through a broken doorway. No one comes here anymore. It's perfect for lying low. Zira followed, inspecting the place. Acceptable. Vela flopped onto an old couch, making a dust cloud explode around her. She coughed, waving her hand in front of her face. Okay, maybe not perfect. Jake rolled his eyes before turning back to Zira. Now, tell me the truth. Zira raised an eyebrow. I have told you the truth. Jake shook his head. Not everything. You said bounty hunters were after you. Why? What makes you so important? Vela leaned back dramatically. Ooh, the dramatic reveal. I love this part. Zira hesitated, but then she sighed. Fine. She sat down across from Jake, her expression turning serious. Our people are at war, she said. Not a war between planets, a war between our own kind. Jake frowned. Like a civil war. Yes. Zira's voice was cold. The Zelleran Empire, the ruling government, believes in strict control. Order through force. But there are those who resist. A rebellion. A growing one. Jake crossed his arms. And you are part of this rebellion. Zira's silver eyes met his. I am more than a part of it. I am one of its leaders. Jake's heart skipped a beat. You're a rebel leader. Vela raised a hand, and I'm her best friend. Zira gave her a tired look. You are not helping. Vela stuck her tongue out at her. Jake ran a hand through his hair. So let me get this straight. The Empire wants you dead because you're leading a rebellion. And these bounty hunters, they work for the Empire. Yes. Zira nodded. They track down people like me. Capture them. Or worse. Jake exhaled. Great, just great. And now they're here, on Earth. Zira's gaze darkened. I did not expect them to follow us this far. Vela frowned. I mean, we did make a pretty big crash. Jake groaned. Yeah, about that. Your ship. If they find it, they'll know aliens are here. And if the government finds it first, you'll be a science experiment. Vela's eyes widened. Oh, no, no. I don't want to be dissected. Jake turned to Zira. You need to get off this planet. Zira's expression hardened. We cannot leave. Not yet. Jake blinked. Oh, why not? Zira looked toward the city skyline, her silver eyes reflecting the distant lights. The war is spreading. If the Empire reaches Earth, your people will be caught in the middle. They will take this planet for themselves. Jake's stomach twisted. You're saying Earth is in danger. Zira nodded. If they confirm our presence here, they will send forces. Your world is unprepared. Jake leaned back, rubbing his face. Jesus. Vela poked him. Who is Jesus? Jake sighed. Not important. Vela shrugged. Okay, but we are important. And now you are important too. Jake scoffed. How do you figure that? Vela grinned. Because you helped us. That makes you part of the story now. Jake let out a short laugh. Oh, fantastic. I always wanted to be the main character in an intergalactic war. Zira stood up. We need to move soon. The longer we stay, the more dangerous this becomes. Jake looked at her. What's the plan? Zira hesitated. She had been so focused on escaping, she hadn't planned beyond that. But then a thought struck her. The bounty hunters, if they are tracking us, they must have a ship nearby. Jake's eyes widened. You're saying, steal their ship. Zira smirked. You humans have a saying, do you not? Fight fire with fire. Vela clapped. Oh, I love this plan. Jake groaned. Of course you do. Zira turned to him. You don't have to come. Jake looked between them. Between the two crazy aliens who had turned his life upside down in a single night. He thought about the bounty hunters searching for them. About the threat to Earth. Then he sighed. Oh hell. I've come this far. Might as well see how this story ends. Vela cheered. Jake is officially one of us. Zira gave him an approving nod. Then let's move. The war had come to Earth, and whether he liked it or not, Jake was now a part of it. A strange new friendship. The city was quiet in the early morning hours, but for Jake, Zira, and Vela, the night wasn't over yet. Their plan was simple, but incredibly dangerous. They were going to steal a bounty hunter's ship. The idea had come quickly. Zira knew how these hunters worked. They never traveled alone, which meant there was a hidden landing site somewhere close by. If they could locate the ship and take it, they could escape Earth before things got worse. Jake, despite his better judgment, had agreed to help. He didn't know why. Maybe because he felt responsible. Maybe because he didn't want to see his planet turned into a battleground. Or maybe, just maybe, because a part of him actually liked these two aliens. Even if they were trouble. The infiltration begins. They move through the abandoned district of the city, sticking to the shadows. Zira led the way, her sharp senses scanning the area. Jake followed behind, his heart pounding. Vela. Well, Vela was enjoying the adventure. I feel like a spy, she whispered excitedly. I always wanted to be a spy. Jake sighed. You also wanted to be thrown across a rooftop. Vela beamed, and it was awesome. Zira ignored them. Quiet. They ducked behind an old truck as Zira pointed ahead. Across the empty street was a construction site, a large area filled with half-built buildings and steel scaffolding. And there, in the center of the lot, was a ship. Jake's breath caught in his throat. It was sleek and black, almost blending into the darkness. It was different from Zira and Vela's ship, more compact, more tactical. That's it, Zira whispered. A bounty hunter vessel. Fully armed. Fully functional. Jake swallowed hard. And guarded. Zira nodded. Most likely. Vela tapped her chin. Okay, so we sneak in, disable the guards, steal the ship, and whoosh, we're out of here. Jake stared at her. You make it sound so easy. Vela winked. That's because it will be easy. Zira smirked slightly. We shall see. Jake sighed. Okay, what's the plan? The plan. Improvised. Zira's strategy was simple. Get close. Take out any guards. Get inside the ship. And take off before the bounty hunters could react. Simple in theory. Much harder in execution. They crept forward, using the shadows as cover. As they got closer, they saw two armored figures patrolling near the ship. Their armor was black, their helmets sleek and featureless. They moved like professionals, quick, silent, deadly. Jake tensed. You got a plan for them? Zira nodded. Yes. She pulled out a small round device from her belt. With a quick flick of her wrist, she tossed it toward the guards. The moment it hit the ground, it pulsed with a strange, blue light. The guards barely had time to react before a wave of energy surged outward, silently knocking them unconscious. Jake's jaw dropped. What the hell was that? Zira smirked. Stun grenade. No noise. No mess. Vela grinned. Zira's really good at breaking things. Jake shook his head in disbelief. Okay, let's move before they wake up. The Great Escape. The trio rushed toward the ship. Zira reached the entrance first, pressing her hand against a small panel on the side. A green light flashed, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. They hurried inside. The ship's interior was sleek and cold, filled with high-tech controls and glowing blue displays. Jake whistled. Okay, this is cool. Zura immediately took the pilot's seat, her fingers flying across the controls. I need a moment to override the security. Vela plopped into a seat and spun in a circle. This chair is so comfy. Jake groaned. Vela, focus. She pouted but stopped spinning. Zura's hands moved quickly, bypassing the ship's security with ease. Almost there. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared. Red warning lights flashed across the cabin. Jake's stomach dropped. Oh, what was that? Zura's face darkened. They triggered an external lock. They know we're here. Vela's eyes widened. Whoa, this just got more exciting. Jake panicked. Zyra, get us in the air now. Zura's fingers flew across the console. Hold on, hold on. From outside, shouts rang out. More bounty hunters were approaching fast, weapons raised. A voice echoed over the ship's comm system. Intruders detected. Stand down, or we will open fire. Jake clenched his fists. Not good. Not good at all. Zura narrowed her eyes. Too late for that. She slammed a button. The ship roared to life. The entire cabin vibrated as the engines fired up. Outside, the bounty hunters scrambled for cover, shouting orders. Then, boom. The ship lifted off the ground in an explosion of energy, tearing away from the construction site like a bullet. Jake was thrown back against his seat. Hello. Vela whooped in excitement. I love this part. Zura's hands were steady as she pulled the ship into the sky. The city lights blurred beneath them as they ascended into the clouds. The alarms were still blaring, warning of incoming threats. Zura flicked a switch. We are not clear yet. Jake gritted his teeth. What now? Zura's silver eyes glowed. Now we run. She pulled back the throttle, and the ship vanished into the night. A new beginning. Minutes later, they had broken through Earth's atmosphere. The deep black of space stretched before them, infinite and quiet. Jake sat back, breathless. I can't believe we actually did that. Zura smirked. You doubted us. Jake laughed weakly. Oh, absolutely. Vela stretched out in her chair. That was fun. Jake gave her a look. That was terrifying. Vela shrugged. Same thing. Zura glanced at the ship's scanners. The bounty hunters will regroup. They will not stop hunting us. Jake sighed. Yeah, I figured. So what now? Zura's expression softened slightly. You have done enough, Jake. You don't have to come with us. Jake stared at her, then at Vela, who was already watching him with a hopeful expression. He thought about his life on Earth, his boring, quiet life. And then he thought about the last few hours. It had been insane, ridiculous, but it had also been exciting. He let out a breath. Well, I've already stolen a spaceship. Might as well see where this road leads. Vela cheered. Yes, Jake is officially part of our crew. Zura gave him an approving nod. Welcome aboard. Jake smirked. You two are gonna get me killed. Vela grinned. Probably. Jake shook his head, looking out into the vast, open stars. His old life was over. A new adventure had just begun.